Thank you, Jade. I love you so much. Thank you. Yes, and you all are all funny. I usually will add, I'm an addict named Adam, but I'll add, have you all ever heard of HALT? Hungry, angry, lonely, tired. Well, I'll add a S to the end of it, halts. And so, don't take yourself too serious or have a sense of humor because it's important, and I mean, I'm pretty sure you all know the suffering and it's a disease that we have that we share if you believe it. So, yeah, but at least for me, there had to be a sense of urgency, that whole easy does it, you know, I don't know. I don't know why I am here where I am now with, 7 years and some change and a few rounds of steps under my belt. I don't know. That's just, that's my story and why some people, probably many addicts that are in jail for their whole life. There's a lot of addicts that die, and don't make it. And so, I don't know. I can't answer that. And, it says that we don't have to know how we became an addict, but to focus on our recovery. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I always like to feel good, always loved to feel good. And I hated not feeling good, pretty much. And, I like my whole family, we used. And, I guess like my first Zima, I was like 5. I do talk about the drugs. I don't really believe in triggers. So I don't know. Do y'all talk about triggers in your groups?
Yeah.
Really? Well, they know you're an addict, right? How about waking up is a trigger?
Right. That's what it is. All
right.
Waking up.
Like being alive, a trigger. Oh, look, a white chair, Coke, crack, meth.
Right.
Look, brown. Remember that good dope and hash?
Brown.
Right? Wait a second. Is that a steel reserve right there that I'm right? Like that's how I am. Because everything for me is using. That's all I really knew or all I thought that I was good at. And a lot of it too, I can remember, like man, traveling with my sister, she was older. So like I always could have beer. Like alcohol was always on the table. Weed was always on the table. That was like a non-negotiable. But a lot of it was that conviviality, that feeling of, oh, I'm about to get some. And like there was going to be this hope. I don't know what it was. Well, first when I was younger, it was, well, yeah, I'm going to be an adult and I'm going to get fucked up because that's what adults do. And I'm living. And plus I'm a real smart addict. So like I knew, I was going to change eventually. And yeah, I mean, I guess I realized I was an addict, like for real, addicted to medication. I was probably 16 and I started coming home from high school, during half days and having to take a couple pain pills a day. And my mom was a couple pain pills a day. And my mother was getting like 3 or 4 prescriptions a month, Lortabs and things like that. And we would just share them. Yeah. And so, I mean, everything. Xanax as a young boy, always on all of the drugs. And before I knew it, 18 years old, I was on a methadone clinic and I was smoking crack and I was a gospel disc jockey. And so it was like, that's kind of how that worked out. And I was just suffering. I was suffering in pain and dying. And, I've lost a lot of friends, childhood friends, have overdosed young when I was young, 19, 20 years old. Shiloh, Danny. And then as it progressed, my disease and life went on, then it was like, well, my stepfather died in a diaper. And, my sister and my mother died as a direct result to the disease of addiction. And we think it was the brother-in-law that, led directly to their deaths 3 months apart and, crazy story. But like, it was a horror story. A lot of trauma. Kidnapped at 5 from a McDonald's. My niece was like 1 pound, 5 ounces when she was born, addicted to heroin. So like, crazy. Like we used. That's what we did. And so I was in front of a judge. I was, like 21 and, I had been to jail and played spades on Sunday night for my chicken, but never prison. Like there's a different line there and I definitely am not a prison guy. So, and I was like, yeah, I'm going to go into the military. And so it worked. And off I went to the military and I took myself with myself and didn't really go far. I ended up down here in Newport News. And so, still miserable and I would drive home and get whatever I needed here and there. But, I wasn't like physically addicted, but there was this spiritual aspect that was starting to take control. You know, I was miserable. I was sad. I was lonely. I was always looking for that special person, the right one that was going to get me out of what I needed. Or, hey, maybe that right job's going to come along and boom, that's going to happen. Or tomorrow, right? I'm going to be a different person. I'm not going to act this way around people. I'm going to be different. And I always expected these miracles, but, I just didn't know that there was recovery. And and so before I knew it, I was in trouble in the military and got to go to this SARP rehab, which was pretty great. I mean, 28 days, fattened me up. I got to go to an NA or an AA meeting every night. It was pretty cool. Met some great friends, but I wasn't ready. Like, I just didn't know that I wasn't ready. I mean, I thought everything in my body said that I'm ready, but, I can remember like the first night getting out and it was like, boom, whippets and alcohol. And because, they're not hard drugs and only a little bit. And I just thought that my case was different. I thought that nobody had experienced the trauma I went through. I didn't think anybody had smoked crack with their mom and dad. I didn't think that, I thought that I was the only one living across from a recovery center. Right. And so, I self-identified out. I didn't relate, and so that kept me out of staying in the rooms. And luckily, I stayed here. I didn't go home to Baltimore. And thank God, I told you that, everybody started passing away in 2008. But luckily, I met this girl, this beautiful woman, right? No 8. And we're still together today, right? And so we got married. Yeah, look, that's probably, don't get it twisted though. I mean, shit. I'll be fucking some shit up clean. Okay? Like, because still there's something deep inside that is just not. But I'll keep coming back on that. So, but yeah, we met in like '08 and then everybody in my immediate family started passing, right? And it was just like boom, boom, boom. And I remember like it was December 19th, my grandmother passed. In fact, the Ravens were playing in San Diego, right? And my grandfather, right, like he was just, it was miserable, right? The whole day. Like you knew he was going to sob at some point. And then motherfucking Phillip Rivers, they didn't punt. I mean, the Ravens had a great defense, right? And they just kicked our, and he went to bed and truly sobbed. And, and then 6 months later, he passed. And so it was like everybody was just going. You know what I'm saying? Everybody was just going. And that was probably my safest, that was like my safest place was my grandparents. Don't worry, I got something for you. Obviously, you're in here to teach everybody. Kind of like Jesus. You know how Jesus hung out with people like that, right? He hung out with those people to teach them. I know all about you. And so it was like everything was leaving. All of that past life, everybody's dying, because of the disease of addiction. And here I am. I'm married now. I'd already been kicked out of the military, but for some reason, I just don't quite understand everything I share with you that I can't use anything. And it got down to at the very end, it was blunts. It was blunts, I couldn't use anything. And so I ended up in the psych ward, thought that I really was serious. This is 2017, was going to do a 90 and 90 and got out. And I can remember I went to like 11 days in a row, went to a meeting. And then on that 12th day, I didn't make it. And I cried like, cause I was serious. I want to get clean. And I don't know why, in August of 2018, why it worked for me. And it was May, I was still using and I was like, screw it. I'm going to keep going to the meetings because I'd been coming in and out of NA now for like 10 years. And so I saw the same people that were there and I knew what they were saying and work the steps and do this. And like, all right, well, like, how am I supposed to, put my recovery around my life? I didn't understand that. Like, I got to go to work. I have things to do. I have to live. I didn't realize that I was living for the disease. I just didn't get it. And I don't know what it was at some point in my life that I decided to, or God, allowed me to surrender. And I do say God, so hopefully y'all don't get offended with that. I mean, I don't know. There's I mean, it's like, look, when I came in here and I thought God had went on vacation, remember I was at that gospel disc jockey and I was really pissed off. But then I realized like we've always used the word God for God, and billions of people across the planet practice religion. But I still came in a little bit jaded about religion, and my beliefs. But I truly believe today that it was a higher power. It was something, that allowed me to come in and get clean, coming in and out for 10 years, fooling around, thinking that I had all the answers when I didn't. And so what did I do differently? Well, first I started listening. And like I said, I came in, I was still using. And then at some point I just stopped picking up and was going to a meeting every day. And then I got the sponsor. But before that, they said, hey, why don't you pray on your knees in the morning and pray on your knees at night? And it was just like, man, I can remember, even before I got clean, trying to do that, right? And like the last thing I would want to do is get on my knees and pray. Like it was so hard. I had to exert so much energy just to get on my knees, and I've shared many times before, I have crawled on my hands and knees in rooms that I didn't smoke in. But yet I won't get on my knees and just be like, hey, thank you. Or, say a prayer, right? I mean, I got to remember, like, it's okay that I'm a white dude from America that knows Christian prayers. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. Like, that was, at least in the beginning, was a way to help me connect. And so I did. I really, made it my goal to get on my knees in the morning and at the end of the day and just pray. And it started with like, the Lord's Prayer, say the Serenity Prayer. In fact, I like to roll like this. Another thing that led me, right, to getting clean was I saw this documentary on the fellowship, right? So I had heard of AA, okay? And then, I had NA, and I knew I was an addict, but like, I'm a real motherfucking addict. So I needed to know where it came from. Like, I needed to know that, those cats in the beginning, that they didn't work. I needed to know that, like a lot of, I don't know if you ever heard, but, Bill W. is at a phone, right? He's got 6 months and there's a bar, right? And he's at a phone and he has to make a phone call or go to the bar or he's going to drink, right? Have y'all heard this story? Yeah. All right. And so he makes a phone call. No, he made 10 calls. He made 10 calls. I've never made 10 calls in this program in a row. Like, let me try to reach somebody. Because I got technology. I can just text. I got the Daily Med. I got everything I need from me. And so for me to realize, like, man, like, there was some sacrifice put in. The Inuit, which, a racial slur would be the Eskimo, but the Inuit people, right, up north, what they did, what they went through just to get the big book, the NA, like, it took them 8 years just for their tribes to decipher the message. Like, I don't even have what I do for 8 years. Do you know what I mean? Like, I needed to know, and this is back in the 40s and 50s. I needed to know that, and then something resonated like, damn, I don't know. It connected with my grandparents. It was like, oh, okay, I'm going back to the third. Now I feel like I felt more connected with my disease. And so, and that's what really started giving me, I gave myself a chance. I just started surrendering and going to the meetings and, praying every day. And so what are the prayers? So, one of the prayers is I'll wake up and I'll be like, whatever, God, Lord, creator of the universe, spirit of whatever, right? I mean, say whatever. I mean, I don't know, just make sure it's between you and whoever you're talking to, right? And then I admit, I am an addict or, I am an alcoholic. And I am powerless over the disease of addiction, or I am powerless over the disease of alcoholism. Please help me, and then I go on to this little step 2 prayer that's kind of like, I can't do it without you. It's too big. I try to bring on, let me come to believe the spiritual principles. And then I try to take it into a 3rd step prayer, take my will in my life, which, is my thoughts and my actions. And then I started trying to memorize other prayer, the St. Francis prayer, which is step 11 in the other fellowship. And of course, the Our Father's prayer, and that still can rub me the wrong way. Like, well, it says he. Like, if you look at our traditions, like, well, God's a dude. And after getting clean and work, I realized, well, that's how they wrote 60 years ago. Like, a lot of the literature is old. I mean, you figure 1861, allegedly went to war to end slavery, but yet 100 years later, MLK is right. It takes time for things to change. And so how can I just to come into these recovery rooms and expect, so try to be open-minded and accepting and I just wanted to be a part of. And my motive was, I didn't want to feel pain. I didn't want to feel the pain. I didn't want to fucking feel the pain anymore. I didn't want to feel the pain of dying, because that's what I was doing. I was dying slowly. And I loved my wife. Like, my wife is very opposite of me. She wasn't allowed to watch Friends growing up. Meanwhile, I was hooking up with her friends, my mom's, right? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, complete opposite. My wife has been a catalyst. Like, I'm really, really grateful. And one thing my grandfather said the first time he met her was, he's like, well, I got a horse named Amy, and it was like, so he knew I was doing something right, and because they put their house up, they put everything up, like Brandy, the oldest one, I mean, they were done with her, and then here I come, they thought that I had a chance and he thought that I knew better. And my grandfather thought that I knew better. He did. Now, he doesn't know all that trauma that happened. You know what I mean? And he'd be the first to make me go to confirmation and not go to church. Right. So obviously there was something going on too. But and then what happened to that house? Like, when they both passed away, I went up September 2013 to get the ashes. Now, remember, I didn't get clean until 2018. But, I guess I've gotten some seeds planted. Something's changing slowly but surely. Like, my mother, and then what happened in that house, like, it was just destroyed. They moved a drug dealer in my grandparents' bedroom, like just complete, hell. It was hellacious. And I would have died for sure if I would have went back home. And so again, something intervened. And, so here I am now, it's 2018. It's like, man, all right, let me try this shit. Because I had come in and out, and I can remember you sharing, Jade, about growing up in Narcotics Anonymous. And it's like, I knew it worked. I knew it worked. The first time I heard who's an addict, I mean, I could tell the people that, I knew it worked. I just wanted lobotomy or, I really wanted something to just, and that's not practical. And so again, I got the sponsor and then started working the steps. Now, my first round was in this step working guide. And I mean, I went for it. I went hard and really did it and set a goal to write a step 4 and then share it. Now, a lot of people will come into NA, at least my opinion, and they'll look at step 4 and they'll be like, oh gosh, it's step 4. I don't know. I feel like I've already lived it. Has anybody ever worked in the restaurant business? Check it. If you ever have to go into a freezer, right, or your fridge and do inventory, there it is. You're organizing, you're rotating. Like when I was a manager at Ruby Tuesday, and that's where I met my wife, right? Like, man, it was like a supermarket in there. And I'd rotate it out, clean. That's my step 4. Because look, at the end of the day, I mean, did I really get rid of it? Some of the things that I've done, that's spirit. I'll have to pay for that when I die. And that's okay. So like, I'm gonna feed the birds and I'm gonna donate money to the SPCA, how I treated animals, I gotta, but then also it's like with that inventory, I still got to go back in there because stuff's going to be going out of date. And it's like, geez. And at the end of the day, all I had to do was really write it down and share it. And that can be a big hurdle for us. I feel that, most of us do this 1, 2, 3 step dance. And then it's like, I mean, it's hard. Go to a meeting. It's like we change, at least I had to change everything. I had to change everything, just a 180, pretty much. Not a 360, a 180. Because if I 360, I'm right back where I was. Like, I literally just, I still don't drive down Pythian. Like, I started, like, going out of my, and, I don't get in touch with the cats that I thought, and they're not bad people, Now, remember, my family's all passed. So, in a sense, it was almost like, I mean, it's hard for us if we have family members that are using or you're in a relationship. Like, that's, I mean, that's a different territory that, I didn't have that. And so I worked the steps and yeah, I mean, I had a spiritual awakening. Now, step 6 and 7, because I'm back on 6, 7, I just finished, they're beast. They're a monster. And so I share that because here we go. It's like, man, I get a couple years clean. I'm doing everything you tell me. And well, now I'm going to eat until I need to go on cholesterol meds. Well, because I really don't care. I'm going to fry pork. I'm going to eat sugar and I'm going to keep doing it. Right. Or it's like, oh, I love sports. Gambling. All right, let me get off of that app. Let me get off of that app. Let me get off of that app. All right, honey, here's the credit card. Oh, okay, here's that card. And then it's like, let me take this loan. You know what I mean? The same type of feelings that I would get when I was about to use manipulating. It's the same disease, and I'm having a hard time accepting it. I'm pissed off at NA old timers. Y'all didn't fucking tell me this. Y'all didn't tell me that that it could be worse, that it could be worse clean. That's not an excuse. Like, I promise y'all, the gifts, like with 9 months clean, I don't know. I applied to be a daycare teacher, right? Still sweaty palms, a mess. And I got hired. I got fingerprinted, P tested, and like, man, what a gift, and being able, work my step 11 while baby's patting them to sleep, and what a gift. And that wasn't me, that was just like, that's what God wanted. I went back to school, got a master's, right? Did the thesis, just finished my doctor. And it's amazing because it's all on recovery base. So it's like, I'll be speaking in Atlantic City and Vienna, Austria, all these amazing opportunities. And I was shooting up with my family, right? Like, I never realized that these dreams, like, I had no idea. I mean, I was clueless, you know, clueless. But yet all these wonderful gifts, and I still am not satisfied. I can remember in recovery, my wife and I, well, I'm 42, she's 40. We're like, all right, well, let's have kids. And like, my perspective changed a lot in recovery. Like, I didn't realize women have that women lose babies. I didn't realize that they have miscarriages. Like 1 out of 3 times. Like, I didn't know that. Totally clueless. And so we went through that. I can remember the one time and she's bleeding and it's like she's a mess. And I'm like, okie dokie, going to my home group. And in retrospect, it's like, well, if I was using, you sure as heck know I would have had what I needed, right? Or not even been in that situation. And then after you heard, with my knee and everything that shared and everybody being dead on my side, I swear to y'all, the week that I shared my 12th step, we had a child, and it was just like, wow, that's my spiritual awakening. Like, that's what I was allowed to. And then we had another one, old puppy, and so you got, well, we call him puppy. So it's like, a 4-year-old and a 15-month-old and just kicking our ass, right? Because we're a little bit older. And Judah loves to go to the meetings, man. Like, if we're driving down to Carolina, he sees a church, he'll be like, ooh, look at that meeting, right? And like, who's coming to his birthday party? Some of them NA cats, right? Like, but it's like, but in NA, them people, they're people. And it's like, fuck, they're goddamn people. Like, man, there's certain people I'm like, I don't want to tell them about the gambling because it's just going to, at the end of the day, we can only trust our higher powers, God, really. But like, the fellowship has done a lot. It has. It's given me, it's given me a new lease on life. And I think what the hardest part about today is that I just can't stop recovering because everything in me sometimes it's just like, I just want to stop. And I don't even know. I guess probably I still want to get high. Like, are there reservations? There probably always is. There's probably, I'm an addict, and I'll be dreaming all the time about all those people I've lost, all those people, that stuff just doesn't go away. And I mean, look, even going to bed at night since August 2nd of 2018, I got these headphone sleepers and then I'll be listening to speakers like through the night. And it's probably because I'm scared still to be like just alone with myself, I don't know. The program has given me a brand new lease on life and I wouldn't trade it for anything, but I will say that it is hard. It's the hardest thing that I ever had to do. And I don't know, without you all, like I had to come up here and do this tonight or I'm probably going to die. That's what I've convinced myself and I'm okay with it. So it's like, maybe if I don't go to a lot of meetings, I won't believe it. I don't know. But, I want to hear what y'all have to say. Like, how are you all doing in here? And what is your experience, or what questions do you have?
My name's Dan. I'm an addict. I guess my question for you is like, so like when you were talking about like not being like doing the drugs, or like now you're gambling, now you're kind of trying to fill that hole with something else. I feel like so my grandmother's been in NA. She started to do that. You know, she stopped kind of going to meetings as much, and now she's like collecting all these fucking neighborhood tax. And it's like I see it. Like I see exactly what you're talking about. For me, obviously, I haven't gotten to a point where I'm replacing it yet because I'm in here right now. But what is the thing at NA like when does the whole different? What is the thing? Is it working the steps? Like when you want to stop that, is it just simply coming to the meetings and sharing? Like how do you stop that behavior? And what like or do you just say it's not drugs, it's okay to replace it with other?
You know, I think it changes. The most thing would probably go back to AA. Look, I love NA. NA's everything. NA sometimes forgets that they adapted it. NA will be real quick to be like, it's ours. But service and love, that was Dr. Bob. So if I do service and get out of myself, usually, but I think it's a mix of everything. Sharing with my sponsor, you know, at least going to my meetings, right? And I have a schedule. Like I haven't gone less than 5 meetings in a week since I started. I keep them, and I haven't not hit my knees twice a day. So I do everything and the steps. I do all these things. I think that surrender, it's almost like, so here I am now on step 6, just like that surrender with the drugs where I was like, here, white towel, or I'm going to get on this replacement therapy, or I'm going to get on, look, don't get it twisted. I told you I got kidnapped at like 4. I've been on psychotropics, right? Some type of my whole life. I'm not in denial. If I were to stop taking any of those psych meds, I need a state hospital, right? But now here I am with y'all 7 years. So I can be real, like going up into NA and telling them you're on meds. Some people will run you out. It's none of their business, right? It's like, it's none of their business. And I just say that because maybe that's another place. Maybe if I were to try to take a step and, you know, I don't know, sometimes it's like, well, your dual diagnosis and what came first? You know, I believe for me, I mean, look, I was born and I was screaming for the booby. I remember that first bag of Cheetos. I remember, and maybe PTSD was happening, but like the bipolar, all these conditions that you can say I have, I think are a result of maybe the PTSD and addiction, which if you look, it says it's a chronic progressive disease. So, and so to answer your question, I guess that means my recovery has to be chronic and progressive somehow. And like that is, you know, and maybe that's your own journey and challenge, like growing up in it. And then like, well, geez, how do you navigate that?
Yeah, it's always kind of like it's just like what the fuck's the point if you're replacing it with something else because it's not dope. You know what I'm saying? It's like sometimes it's like hard to for me to see the freedom in it with certain people I've been around, but then I hear some of you, I was like, oh, you know.
And look, I mean, technically, even if they were clean most of your life, I mean, you qualify for Naranon, right? So it's like you have your own surrender. It's like, and that shit is real. Being a codependent or you having your own, like it's real. But I find that too. So now it's like, I got to surrender these other behaviors if I want to change and not feel the pain. And all those cliches, right? You know, pain is evidence, suffering is optional. I swear they're real. Like, you know, if I could be a womanizer, I can. I ain't that good. No. Now my grandfather on the other side, Johnny Staccata, that's what he did. He ran a lotion shop and did all that. I don't know. I ain't going. But it's like, I'm not that guy, you know, but that pain of, you know, whether it's sex and again, the eating and the spending, like it's just as painful. And applying, like you said, do you apply the steps? Yeah. Is there service? Yeah. Prayer? Yeah. And reaching out sponsorship? Yeah. And I think sharing at the right meetings with the right people? Yeah. And at the end of the day, I swear to y'all, I do have faith. Like that's one thing the 12 steps has given me. Like, I swear, man, it's going to be all right. Like, I believe that today. And that's something when I was using, it wasn't, I didn't really have that. I wanted to, you know. Has anyone in here? Yeah, go ahead. 7 years and almost 4 weeks. So yeah, August. And I mean, that's some time, you know, it almost feels like I'm middle maintenance now.
You finally got, you get yourself up. I'm thinking, I was in the hospital. I went 33 years. Two friends a few weeks ago in my life. They promised me if they're ready for it, they promised me no alcohol, no drugs to them. First thing they did that Sunday, my guess out. If I finished God, did that all that. I'm taking this and this. Because the mother's two shots. Two shots and each ice cold, so naturally I'm more moles. Then that little out circles.
Only because it was ice cold. You're hilarious.
And then I'm popping back that like favorite wine. I thought, oh, my favorite wine. I mean, that just happened to like my favorite wine. And I thought, well, a couple of glasses of steamer. It's a wedding party. And before you know it, 2 weekends in a row, that Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I drank all weekend. And then I got in, the next weekend, I got into an acid party for my acid. And then they pulled out most of the I went on psychedelic career. And I pop in the 30s, and God knows animals and dogs and chickens and cats and everything else. And I got bullshit. And I like to see with myself for that time, because I started at 7 years old. And alcoholic pot, mainly, on black teas, and like that, stuff like that. That's what I did. And I did that for like 19. And I had a sponsor, 80-something years old, maybe. So if he looked at me at 19, he said, I'll pay you for your thing. I ain't hurt nobody but myself. He said, oh, that's the damn biggest lie of them. He said, you ain't hurt nobody but yourself. And he started telling me how big of an asshole I was when I played. That's what through almost hurt my grandkids, my family, my cousin.
Now, during the 33 years, I know you were a pastor and you preached and did all these things. What about I remember, I'm clean. So listen, did you continue to go to meetings and work the steps?
I had missed 2 weekends of meeting prior to that heart. I was sponsoring this phone call. I don't know what it was called. But I had 100 people I told about. I could have left that week. I made a conscious. I knew when I pulled out the line, it's not good. I could have left. I could have called 10 people to get together. I could have called 6 people. I had a list. But then I called, there it is. And it's like I figured out. It's like but then when I started, I couldn't stop. I just seen myself going back to 19. And I said, man, if I don't stop this, I made a conscious decision after those 2 weekends.
Hold up. There's a meeting going on. Do y'all want to share? Oh, no, you go. Well, no, we were just in here and then you guys came in. You can share if you want. I didn't know. Sorry, go ahead.
But I went to my mental health counselor and I said, look, I got to have help. I got to have man. I got to go to the side door. I'm going to jump out of the his side. And he said, I'll tell you what, someone at the phone got one of Joe. He said, I'll pick you up by you, but you're not going nowhere tonight. I'll put you in the hospital, in the side door. I told him, get you down here, They did. Down, wait on them. And they set up, talk to you, to about me. But I have a hard time getting myself up. But I don't know, it's a bit left, so there's an office. Forgiven for him.
Well, I think that, at least with me, and it talks about only a nuclear blast, will make us change. And so maybe on the spiritual side of the disease, well, yeah, I mean, you could take care of people and do your thing. And look, we have connections. Maybe there was something more that, was needed for your change. It's not, sometimes relapse can be such a dirty word, but at the end of the day, diabetes, that's the part of the disease. We relapse. Relapse, like if you're relapsing in here that's your journey, and you may have, especially people that have a lot of clean time, maybe they're judging and maybe they are. So what? I mean, it's, this was what your God wanted, where you needed to be back down here,
Also, you lose everything and that's certain fault you either. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't mean because you fucked up that all that's gone now. All that good time's gone.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. I mean, like, look, with my little bit of clean time, I've seen people go out with 28, 30 years and then see them again and they look like a deer in headlights. You definitely don't have that look. Must have been all that acid got. But no, but that's your I mean, if we had to trade back all the shit that we went through, but now you're here right now today. like, it's like, man, I guess I'd have to take that.
So you got 7 years and some months to, I thought about becoming the man.
So, I mean, look, this family's recovering from alcoholism and addiction. Like, I have these intake guides that I've given a few of them here and other counselors, and I have a board of directors. And it's like, our goal is to try to implement, it's called family communication patterns. So like when y'all come into intake, we want to find out how your family communicated. You got consensual, which is like the Cosbys, right? Or Modern Family. Consensual families are more likely everybody would be in on the recovery. They'd have an intervention. It'd be all, you know how the Cosby would be? They'd be all up in it, right? They have good conversation, but very conformative. Then pluralistic is kind of like, the Addams Family, or it's like, yeah, we do a lot of good talking, but man, we'll let the kids stay out all night, whatever. The families that probably need the most help would be protective, like the Sopranos or Bernie Mac would be a protective family. They ain't fucking recovering, and you already know Bernie's not letting nobody in the house. They'll take care of it as the family, right? And the protective family is so much more likely to not go to treatment, to not engage in group. And then there's laissez-faire, which is like, married with children, and we don't know what to do with that type of family, but kind of incorporate it and see if maybe counselors can utilize that information to help with treatment plans and just, but I think the main thing would be going around and on the low trying to implement the 12 steps. But it's like, when you're out in the educational world, they look at like long-term recovery as 5 years. They're like, oh, you got long-term recovery. And then I'm like, well, that's funny because some old timer just told me that my head's still up my ass, and that when I get 10 years, I'll realize that I can pull my head out of my ass, right? But I just can't go out there blasting the 12 steps. Like, I have to kind of step back, but on the low, I feel like that's service. So, I don't know. Look, Avenues is doing amazing things. The treatment center that was here before them, Landmark, which I would come, like, they would put me in this closet over here with the salad bar thing, and like nobody would come down. And then Avenues came in and just changed everything. I mean, the energy is so much more, yeah. Yes, all the way in the back, it was just a different feel for recovery, And I mean, I feel like, technically y'all don't have to, y'all can leave, right? I mean, so it's like,
They're like, that's for a meeting. You don't want to see that feeling. If that's how, if you don't want to
it don't matter. Hey, it doesn't matter. Hey, court ordered, whatever, I mean, get it, so what? Yeah.
So I'm going after these. I'm trying to hear them like do that.
What's that now? I haven't, but how was it all right?
This is a year program. Yeah. It's a more structure. A whole lot more structure. You can't see that. Yeah. Help you a whole lot. You took part in the program, gathering program, job. Stepping man to money, you all what fun that come. I graduated program so doing little bucks. I accept for that, I didn't call them that pulling me going back. Long time I go back.
Look, I'm gonna tell you, like that's what I needed. That's why I went to I went to meetings every day for 456 days, right? So it's like, but and so I was like, and then COVID hit, and then it was like, oh man, what do we do? And so now I've adapted online a little bit, but like that, I would need that same thing. Like if I just stop the NA, I would need a year program. Yes.
What we go with, or how they'll get in this farm, or catch the bus, and how we get to the movie.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? It's more better than just,
yes.
And then.
But look, if you're working, I know, you're busting your tail. the last thing you want to do, you know, if you don't make it to a 7 a.m. or whatever, or if you're waking up at 4, is go to a motherfucking like, you know, like it is hard, man. It's hard.
Yeah, you see.
Hey, love you.
I'm looking at I'm supporting right now, post